So they give the fancy name and then, you know, describe how it's gonna kill me, basically, right? And then that's it.
Hey, this is a talk with Simon Steeps Johnson, who as a young adult or teenager actually had a severe liver issue which led to his body deteriorating and eventually a transplant. This put him down the path of looking up alternative medicine and herbs and eventually making a career and a living out of Simon Steeps teas. Watch his story in this video. Thanks.
And it's like, well, you know, we don't really know anything else about it or why it happens or where it comes from or what you can do about it, but you know, here's some pills that'll, you know, slow the process sort of. But
so
you know,
it was a death sentence?
Well, yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. And was there a point when you started to question the doctor and
well, a little bit, like milk thistle to help with the liver, and you know, presented that to the doctor and he just like totally dismissed it and was like, no, that's, you know, that's not gonna work, you don't even bother looking into that. It's just like disheartening. It's like, oh yeah, like really, like.
And what was the moment like when you heard that you were gonna get the transplant?
So the way they do it is it's like you get on this transplant list, they call it. And so the list you move up and down based on how badly you need the liver. As it deteriorated and went downhill more and more, finally my liver was just like really starting to not function. And that's when I was really getting yellow and getting the bloating and just like barely able to do anything.
And what age were you at this point?
That's when I was 21.
Okay.
My stomach was just like fully solid mass of like liquid. Stick this crazy syringe in and draw out all this liquid, and like I can't lie on one side and I can't lie on the other side. What ended up being, I had this other like cyst thing growing on my spleen on the back, so like this side was really sore, and then my liver's on this side, so this side's really sore, and then my stomach's really huge. Things went downhill, my kidneys weren't functioning, and everything was just sort of starting to shut down.
And what did they give you, like a rate of survival, or like how?
No.
What were you thinking? Like, were you thinking about your life at all and like where this was going to end
really.
up? Okay.
I just like knew it was all going to work out.
Really?
Basically. It was just like, okay, here we go. You know, of course there were hard times, and it was like, oh, you know, like it's just like it's just really hard. Yeah. Then they called me up. Was it like Sunday night? And they're like, oh, we got a liver here. It's looking good. You know, we're probably going to do the transplant in the morning. They got to check it. And I was just like, all right, well, you know, here we go. And then get into this other room, like the surgery room or whatever. And it's this like crazy, like sci-fi spaceship type, you know, place with super bright lights.
What were you feeling at that time?
I don't know either. Like, just ready, I guess.
So you had
it was
like you had like a sense of peace about this?
Yeah,
or like,
basically.
Okay.
Yeah. Lie me onto this other super uncomfortable, just like table, basically. Just thinking about a transplant, right? It's like they're gonna cut me right open.
And the liver's like big.
Yeah, right. It's not like, right, it's this huge thing, right? Yeah, and it like processes all the blood and like does, like, it's a major functioning thing, right? They got the thing that breathes for me, and then they gotta like pump in fresh blood because the whole time it's just like bleeding, obviously, right? This thing was like cirrhosis of the liver, so it's like hardening, right? It gets like scar tissue, and so then blood can't flow through it. It needs to like create new pathways. It was like creating all these new sort of blood veins and vessels around my liver. And so cutting that is like, now you're cutting all this extra blood vessels, bleeding everywhere as you take out this vital organ, and then they got to pump all this blood in, plus they got to like breathe for me and keep my heart going, and you know, then they take another one out that's been in like this on ice for a few hours, and you know, stick that in and sew it all back together, and then sew the rest of everything all back together, and it's like, holy,
that's major.
Yeah, like,
no kidding. Did you feel like there was someone else's liver, or like, I don't know if that's a weird question?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, not, I guess not. Like, I mean, it was all just like really painful. Got a hose coming out of here and out of here and here and here, and I got, you know, a million wires and things hooked up to me, and I'm just like, you know, lying in this bed, and I'm super hot, and you know, can hardly breathe. Like, and to be able to breathe is just like, you know, I'm just breathing these shallow, super shallow breaths, because like to expand anything is like super painful, right? And can't really talk, like I can just barely like whisper a little bit because my throat's all like messed up because I had this like thing shoved down there. You could see my color change by like almost the minute. Like, it was super cool. Like, I progressively got less and less yellow.
So what was the recovery process like?
Well, just, yeah, lying in bed. I can't eat or really drink anything for a while because like everything down here doesn't function right now because they cut all the nerves, and so my whole digestive system doesn't work for a few days, and so I'm basically just living on some water, like some ice cubes. One of the best things I remember too is being able to just like lie down again. Like, I hadn't been able to lie flat for so long because it was just all so painful, right?
Imagining that there's some kind of like, I don't know if there was a moment or something where you like these experiences that have happened relate to starting a business, or was there a moment when you had like a epiphany for it, or how did the business come to be?
So that took a while later. Liver transplant was supposed to just like fix everything.
Right.
I was just supposed to be good. Now my liver was functioning fairly decently. My colon was not functioning, I guess. The other autoimmune, they give a fancy name and tell me how I'm going to die from it, basically. So this I had, technically I was diagnosed with this, but really flared up, like, say, I don't know, a year after my transplant sort of thing. It was like, okay, now, like, I got this to deal with. It was no transplant sort of thing, right? It wasn't like, okay, you got this thing, but we'll fix it when it gets bad enough. Okay, now you got this thing, and you got to deal with this, and again, it was like there was no real solution. It was like, well, here's some medication, you can take this one and it's, and it'll help some, or you can, take this one and it'll do a lot, but it's got these crazy side effects that like you don't really want to take this for very long. Yeah. Oh, well, shit. Now it's up to me to figure it out, right? And I was starting to really sort of just question the world and everything they say about the world. So I got really into like permaculture and learning alternative lifestyle stuff, because it was like, okay, well, now I got my, now I'm alive again. Now what am I going to do with my life? I knew I got to like provide for myself at least in some way, and there are other ways, and I was searching that stuff out. So I came across that whole sort of permaculture thing, which is, design science, so where you can really design all of your needs. Like, so it's about designing houses that heat and cool themselves. It's about designing, garden systems that produce, perpetually without major inputs, right? And so you're working with nature to provide your needs rather than fighting against nature. Like, instantly latched onto that, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. And it was just like immediately was like, okay, now
what was the moment that you're like, this is what I'm doing?
I came across like videos of like a food forest garden, I guess, or stuff. I didn't know the word permaculture, and I didn't know these words, but I knew what I was looking for, sort of. Right? And I watched this video, and it was like in England or somewhere, and this guy had this like awesome forest garden, and he was growing all these things, and it was growing like with super minimal input, and he's got tons of different varieties of berries and fruit trees and herbs, and he's doing it working with nature, right? And he gets all these insects in, and he's got these chickens running around, and all this stuff working together symbiotically to create a system that basically if you walked away from it, it would just continue to go. I had sort of this idea that like I was gonna do something else, or like that things weren't right. 2 semesters of school and like 3 semesters of co-op, and it was like, okay, well, I'm definitely not doing this. Like, I'm gonna work outside, and I'm gonna do something that like is meaningful, right? And I didn't really know what that was. Valerie was really getting into the herbs, and she ended up making, herbal teas for Christmas one year. And so she got out of her book and mixed up some things and made these little tea bags and gave them all out for Christmas one year. We were moving up north to like my cottage area in the Port Loring area up there, and they had a little farmer's market. Valerie mostly wanted to be part of that farmer's market, and at the same time she and her friend had been making these little like lotion body product. She wanted to sell that there, but they had already had that vendor, and so she wasn't allowed to do that. So she was okay, well, let's do teas, because she just made all these teas and had all these recipes, these tiny little plastic baggies of different teas, and people were digging it and they were buying them, and it was really fun. I can really just sort of like feel when a thing is true, right? It's like, oh, this is obvious. As soon as I come across it, I was just like, oh yeah, this, of course.
And did you think like you wanted to start this on the side, or like jump right in full time with, like, how did you think about that?
Yeah, well, no, we just sort of, went for it full time, basically. It was like, well, we didn't really want to, get another job, and Ellery was to be a server and whatever, and it was just like, well, let's just try it out. Christmas season was just getting going, and so we just, basically, bought some labels and, created a little logo thing, and bought some bags and some labels, and signed up to some shows, events where you can sell your stuff. So we just started learning about business. I didn't know anything about business. It was just like, okay, well, let's try it out. Shortly after that, like my bowel condition was getting pretty bad, and so I was looking for something, right? It was like, okay, well, doctor says some stuff, but at the end of the day, he can't really help me, right? Well, let's go check out this herbalist now. I'm learning all about herbs.
So the doctor was okay with it?
Oh, well, I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna.
There's nothing to lose, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. He can't help me, basically. Right. You know, he can't address the deep underlying issue of what is actually going on, right? And how do I actually heal from this? You know, normally I go to the doctor and like I show up there and it's like, you know, 10 minutes, right? Like you get 10 minutes max, basically, right? Show up here and it's just like super awesome place and he's just like super warming and welcoming and it's like, we end up spending like 3 hours there, right? Wow. It's like really getting to know me and asking a lot of questions. He's got this whole questionnaire that I fill out to just like get really deep into like who I am. I'm not just like human machine sort of.
A bunch of different parts. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't just like, oh, okay, you know, I got colitis. What am I going to do about that, right? It was a whole system thing. So it was like, okay, well, colitis is just a symptom of deeper underlying issues.
Right. So did you ever get a sense of what those underlying issues were, or like what happened?
Well, yeah. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to lifestyle, right? What stimuli am I taking into my being, myself, and how are they affecting me? What food am I eating? How am I eating it? You know, what's my mental state? You know, how am I going through my day? You know, how do I react to situations? You know, how do I sleep? What exercises do I do? How do I do them? How often? You know, it's this very complex, holistic thing.
I would imagine it's not like a dichotomy, like you just have herbs or you just take medicine. Right. Like it's like, how do you fit both into your life? Like what does it look like?
That's right. It's not a dichotomy, which is a real trap that sort of culture wants us to fall into right now. Take this tea, try out this mixture of herbs that, you know, I suggest might help you. Drink this and see how you feel after you drink it, right? And if that does something for you, well, then maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something there. So it's not that, you know, drinking herbal tea is going to fix you up. But the level and depth of chronic conditions that I see these days, and especially in myself, it requires a very wholesale overhaul.
I'm curious if you have a book or a speech or a talk that, like, is there one in particular that you're like, oh man, I wish I came across this earlier?
There's a really awesome video called Greening the Desert by Jeff Lawton on YouTube. It's like 5 minutes, but the original Greening the Desert shows the power of permaculture in action. He's literally taking salted, hard pan, Dead Sea Valley desert and turning it into a rainforest.
What was a time when you might have felt really afraid to do something, but then after you did it, you realized it wasn't that hard or it wasn't as scary as you thought it was?
Changing little things, like just like, okay, well, I'm just not gonna do that anymore. I'm just not gonna eat that thing anymore, or whatever, I guess. And it's like, oh, okay, well, there it goes.
Wasn't as hard as you thought it was after?
Right. No, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, you know, can't do without my coffee in the morning. It's like, well, you know, you can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's not a given.
Right.
When was the last time you cried tears of joy?
Oh, that happens fairly often.
Really?
I was at this really cool young adult program. So you partner up with someone and so it's like trying to imagine something that's like really sweet, and it's like, you know, little baby, or, you know, for me it's like, you know, sweet little pup when we get our dog or whatever, and the like how fun that is and the fun times we have, and being able to really generate that and feel that on, like, you know, not just thinking about it. So,
just if you have any kind of parting thoughts for anyone who's watching, any final recommendations or for people who are checking this out.
Yeah, anything that interests you, go check it out, because right now we're at a time in history where we can literally do anything we want. If we put our minds to it, we have total access to do anything we want, right? The only limiting factors are ourselves, right? And so just if things intrigue you or whatever, just go check them out and see what you can learn, and to be your own authority on subjects. There's so many experts out there right now saying that they know everything about something, and this is the way it is, and this is how you do it. Take in the information, see what feels right, and live by your own personal experience. Use your own discernment and discrimination and discretion to decide what is right for yourself.
There's a quote by, is it Buddha or something, that's like, don't believe it if they've said it, don't believe it if I've said it, like, believe it if, you know, Do you know what I'm talking
you're
about? Don't listen to any.
experiencing
Yeah, exactly. Like listen to what it makes. Like just do what works for you.
all the stuff we want, and we can listen to all the people we want. But at the end of the day, we don't really know until we experience a thing, right? Our work here, what we're meant to do, is what fulfills us personally deeply. What's our real deep personal fulfillment? What is the thing that will make you deeply happy at the end of the day? And that's probably the thing that you should check out.
Solid.
Yeah.
Solid. I think that's a good place to wrap up. And on that note, man, props for everything that you're doing. I think
Right
it's
on.
in this world, it's easy, and a lot of people start businesses because they want to make money. And I can tell you're, based on your life and what you value, you know, you're starting something to make a difference, and
Right.
keep on with that. And,
At the end of the day, we got to make money right now.
Yeah,
but
yeah, absolutely.
You know, how can you do it, right?
Right.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
yeah.
me.
Where can people find you online?
Yeah, SimonSteeps.com, I guess.
Cool.
Check it out. Got a little bit of stuff on there. More things coming.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Right on. Cool.
Take care, and we'll wrap. Bye. Heyo. Thanks for watching. If you had a favorite moment, let me know in the comments below. Also, if you just have an herb or a tea that you really love and it's done something for you, I'd be curious to know what that is. I think Simon would too. Leave a comment. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and visit dantatebrown.com for email updates and more videos. And enjoy the next one. Thanks.
It's managing stormwater. It's building soil. There's layers of wood and soil under that, so it's creating this whole microclimate. All these different layers and variations in temperature and sun exposure and moisture content. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on here.